In this video, I'm going to break down the biggest mistakes writers make with diverse characters and how to avoid them with real examples, practical tips, and no fluff. It's really important to make your characters diverse, but here's the uncomfortable truth. If you get it wrong, you're not just risking bad reviews, you're risking real harm to your readers, your story's integrity, and your reputation. I've seen it happen many times before. Backlash over American Dirt, The Continent, Green Book.
The backlash started rolling in.
What starts with good intentions can quickly turn into a PR nightmare if you're not careful. But here's the good news. Writing diverse characters isn't about walking on eggshells. It's about writing better characters, more interesting characters. I'm Patrick and I've been helping authors write and publish best-selling books for over a decade. So if you're a writer wanting to create a successful book, make sure to subscribe. Here is one of the first mistakes, and you might not even realize you're making it, but readers will feel it in your writing. Jar Jar Binks is a great example.
Mr. called Jar Jar Binks. Mr. your humble servant.
That won't be necessary.
Oh, but it is. 'Tis demanded by the gods, it is.
He was meant to be this goofy character for light relief, but instead, audiences saw him as a racist caricature, and the backlash was brutal. Even the actor, who was black himself, said it nearly destroyed him. You can have the best intentions in the world, but what matters is how your character lands with your readers. Stereotypes will flatten people and turn unique individuals into cliches. The sassy black woman, or the nerdy Asian, or the effeminate gay best friend, these are all lazy stereotypes that we see all too frequently. They're not characters, they're just lazy shortcuts, and readers can tell. The best way to fix this and not fall into this trap is to ask yourself, what are my characters' goals? What do they love? What keeps them up at night? Give them quirks, contradictions, and ultimately real humanity. Now, the next mistake is where writers make diversity decorative, and this can be illustrated by an example. Let's say you are writing a fantasy novel, and your whole squad is white, plus one black guy.
I am the token black guy. I'm just supposed to smile, stay out of the conversation, and say things like, damn.
Readers will notice this. And again, whether this was intentional or not, it will come across to your readers as tokenism, a checkbox, not a person, not a well-rounded, interesting character. They often have no arc, no impact, and exist only to support the hero. That's not inclusion, that's insulation for you from criticism. But the problem is it will no doubt invite more criticism because readers will see this a mile off, and again, whether intentional or not. The fix here is really simple. Make diversity a bigger consideration when writing. Plan this from the start and include multiple characters from underrepresented groups, not for points, but because your world should reflect the real world. Make sure to give them depth, give them purpose, give them something to fight for. A third mistake we see often is too much of a focus on what your character is when you should be focusing on who they are. If their only function is to be the gay one, or a character of color, or of a certain religion, then you've created a symbol, not a person. American Dirt made this mistake.
Not everyone is a fan of one of the latest novels to hit the shelves at Left Bank Books. The fiction tale American Dirt details a Mexican mother and her young son's journey migrating to the U.S.
Its Mexican characters weren't people. They were suffering bodies meant to generate sympathy, and readers hated it. To avoid making this mistake and facing a similar backlash, make a list of things your characters care about that have nothing to do with their identity. Give them flaws, give them humor, hobbies, contradictions. Diversity shouldn't ever be what defines them. It should just be one part of who they are. Now, this next mistake is a big one, and it's one that you have to think very carefully about. Who's the villain in your story? Who gets laughed at? If the answer is only the gay character, the fat character, or the disabled character in your story, then you've got a big problem. This doesn't mean that you can't write a gay villain. It means you shouldn't only write a gay villain. And really, the fix to this one is simple. You need to balance your cast more. Have a mix of positive, neutral, and complex portrayals. Don't link their difference to their evil. Villainy should come from who they are, not what they are. which again might be completely unintentional. You may have given that character certain attributes and unintentionally neglected to add any other diverse characters into your story. The point here is to think about how your readers will interpret how you have written your characters. This is why it's so important to have a professional editor go through your work. They can spot issues like a lack of diversity, or diversity with good intentions but that comes across offensively, as well as polishing your manuscript so that it shines. We have some of the best editors in the world, so get in touch using the link below in the description. Now let's talk about what happens to your diverse character. Let's take Lexa from The 100. She was termed a fridged female character. Lexa's death sparked outrage, not just because fans loved her, but because it was another case of the lesbian character dying for shock value. It sends a message. People such as Lexa don't get happy endings. The term fridge comes from a 1999 comic by writer Gail Simone, who coined the phrase women in refrigerators after an infamous scene in a Green Lantern comic where the hero, Carl Rayner, comes home to find his girlfriend murdered and stuffed in a fridge by a villain. The scene didn't serve any other purpose other than to purely make Carl suffer and grow. Simone noticed this wasn't just a one-off, it was part of a pattern in comics and genre fiction. Female characters often being harmed not for their own arcs, but to simply advance the male protagonists. If your diverse characters exist just to die, ask yourself why. If someone must die, ask, could this emotional punch land without making the only diverse character the victim? Let some live, let some thrive. That's what real diversity looks like. The next mistake comes when writers decide to write outside of their experience without proper effort. When Coco did it right, Mexican audiences cried. When American Dirt got it wrong, Latino readers burned it on social media because they knew who cared and who didn't. Of course, it's fine to write diverse characters. I actively encourage you to do it. That's why I made this video, but you need to do the research. Hire sensitivity readers, know the culture beyond headlines and hashtags. Respect shows in the details and readers will thank you for it. Next, you need to avoid your characters sounding like a TED Talk. If your character only exists to teach the reader a lesson, they're not a person, they're a pamphlet. People don't speak in TED Talk style in person, ever. Even if you're writing about injustice, your characters deserve to be messy, joyful, selfish, and flawed. You need to make sure your characters want something besides justice. Let them fall in love, let them be wrong, let them be funny, let them be human. When characters feel real, your message will hit so much harder. Finally, make sure you are not making the mistake of intersectionality. This would be where your black character is also a woman and is also gay. Now, of course, this is a very valid character to write, but if it's only one diverse character who covers a number of diverse attributes, it can ring false. And again, it feels a bit like a box ticking exercise, whether that was your intention or not. The best way to avoid this is to consider how the world responds to your character. A character's identity shouldn't be a decoration, it should mean something in their world. When you do this the right way, you can create stories that move the world. Black Panther didn't tokenize, it celebrated. Coco didn't exoticize, it honored. The Hate You Give didn't flatten, it gave depth. And Six of Crows didn't preen, it just gave us real people. And the result, stories that moved the world. When you do it right, readers from all backgrounds will connect with your story. And those who rarely see themselves will feel seen. That is ultimately the power of great representation. If this helped, drop a comment with your favorite example of great representation or what you're struggling with in your own writing. And if you have a draft that needs editing, publishing, or marketing, get in touch. The links are below. YouTube will now be recommending another value-packed writing video from me here to help you write a best-selling book, so check that one out next.